We don't use the word minimal hurricane anymore because Isaac proved that. It was a Category 1, but it did pack a wallop.
In the middle of it, with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, was U.S. Senator David Vitter, and he joins us now to share his experiences with us. And Senator Vitter, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, good morning.
What are the takeaway lessons that you got from this?
Well, I'm glad I embedded with the Corps because I was able to see really firsthand and in real time how our new system performed, how the Corps performed with its local partners, and what else happened outside the system. I think the takeaways are three. Number one, the system performed as designed, and we didn't have flooding within the system, but for that post-Katrina work, we would have had significant flooding in those areas. And that's the great news. That's not insignificant, although Isaac was certainly not the ultimate test of it.
But it was still one of those storms on a worst-case scenario track.
Yes, but I mean, I don't want to overdo it. It wasn't a huge storm.
No, it wasn't a huge storm.
So it wasn't the ultimate test. That's all I'm saying. Number two, we had very serious, in some cases, unprecedented flooding outside the system. And that's why I've asked the Army Corps of Engineers for an immediate look at what caused that, and did this post-Katrina work make it worse in any cases. Also, we just need other protection in these areas. Much of that was promised by the Corps as the post-Katrina system was being designed and built on an expedited basis. Problem is, now that it's done, many of those projects have either slowed to a snail's pace or were outright canceled, or like the surge barrier at the Wrigley's, have never been fully designed.
And David, let's talk about that proposed surge barrier at the Wrigley's. When I talked to President Pat Brister from St. Tammany, I said, do you want levees along the lakefront? And she said, no, what we need is that surge barrier that would have protected most of St. Tammany, and also would have protected St. John.
Yeah, that surge barrier would have done an enormous amount of good for this storm and for many, many storms. Would have protected the North Shore, all of the North Shore, and even the river parishes like LaPlace, because that was water that pushed through Lake Pontchartrain into Lake Maurepas.
But people are worried that there could be an offset of that. If you stop from coming to the lake, the water's got to go somewhere.
Well, we need to look at that, and we need to design it right, absolutely.
And right now in Congress, with so many members of Congress wanting to cut the budget to reduce the national deficit, do you think that the mood in Congress is to fund infrastructure projects like the massive projects that are needed?
Well, no doubt about it. It's a difficult environment in terms of any spending. But we need to move forward in a wholesale way. The state needs to be involved, locals need to be involved. We need to use resources like revenue sharing, like Restore, which is not part of that budget debate in Washington. So we need to put all of those pieces of the puzzle together.
But can't this be sold as a way to save money in the long run as an investment?
Well, problem is getting to the long run in Washington. Everything is done in the extreme short run. So yes, that's true, but that's sometimes a difficult argument to make.
And for the victims of Isaac, after Katrina, we had the Road Home program. Do you think there is the funding available to provide the victims of Isaac such relief? Well,
certainly there is major funding help through FEMA and the Stafford Act, through existing law. Now, I'd be a little surprised if we changed that existing law in major ways as we did on a one-time basis for Katrina, but there's major help and funding available under that existing law, and I think you will have immediate bipartisan support to make sure that FEMA fund is fully funded and whatever is needed is there.
But overall, you give the system a pretty high grade.
The system, yeah, we have more work to do outside the system, and we have more work to do with core reform. You know, what I saw in this emergency is what I would call the Army Corps, the emergency mode Corps, no nonsense. Problem is, outside of an emergency, the Corps, particularly in Washington, reverts to bureaucracy mode, and that's what slows and obstructs things enormously. So that was sort of my third takeaway.
All right, Senator David Vitter, thank you very much.
We
appreciate the update.